China is no longer just an economic power. It's America's top rival on land, at sea, in space, and in tech. But how does the U.S. plan to contain this rising giant? In 1904, Halford Mackinder introduced the Heartland theory, claiming, "Who rules the heartland commands the world island, and ultimately, the world." The heartland, rich in resources, protected by geography, and hard to invade, was seen as the key to controlling Eurasia, and through it, global power. The heartland stretches westward to include parts of Eastern Europe. To the south, the heartland connects to key countries like Iran, Pakistan, and India, and to the east, it borders China and parts of Russia. But Nicholas Spikeman introduced the Rimland theory in 1942 with his famous quote, "Who controls the Rimland rules Eurasia. Who rules Eurasia controls the destinies of the world." He argued that the coastal regions surrounding Eurasia, not the heartland, held the key to global power. Though Rimland and Heartland theories seem opposed, they overlap. Both see Eurasia as the key to global power. Spikeman just shifts focus from the interior, Heartland, to its coastal edges, Rimland, not rejecting, but reframing its strategic value. How can the U.S. strategy to contain China be analyzed through the Rimland and Heartland theories? Roughly half of China lies within the Heartland, and the other half within the Rimland. Leveraging this unique position, China aims to use its interior for land-based control, while exploiting its Rimland access for maritime influence and global trade expansion. What is the United States' strategy to contain China's influence in the Rimland and Heartland regions? The United States has formed strategic partnerships with countries like Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, and South Korea to contain China's Rimland influence while deploying its military fleets across East Asia, including the South China Sea and around Taiwan, to maintain the balance of power and counter China's regional expansion. China is leveraging its heartland advantage through the Belt and Road Initiative, building land and rail routes from China through Central Asia to the Middle East and Iran, and from there extending into Europe, aiming to boost trade, infrastructure, and its geopolitical influence across the Eurasian continent. The U.S. has invested in India and strengthened trade and tech ties to position it as a strategic rival to China, aiming to turn India into a global manufacturing hub and reduce dependence on Chinese supply chains. In response to China's Belt and Road Initiative, the U.S. backed the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, a trade route that moves Indian goods through the Middle East to Israel and on to Europe, offering a strategic alternative to China's overland routes. The U.S. uses sanctions on Iran to weaken a key segment of China's Belt and Road Initiative, the overland corridor linking China to Europe via Iran and Turkey, aiming to block infrastructure investment, disrupt trade routes, and limit Beijing's strategic reach across the Middle East. So far, we've looked at how the U.S. is containing China through the Heartland-Rimland lens. But it's also key to note how smart sanctions are being used to slow China's progress in modern tech. The U.S. has restricted China's access to advanced semiconductor technology by banning exports of high-end chips and pressuring allies to block Chinese firms like Huawei from global supply chains. The United States is trying to block China's access to cutting-edge technologies in robotics and AI. But despite sanctions and restrictions, China continues to close the gap with the U.S. and the West. Can the U.S. really cage the dragon, or is China already too big to contain?